Imagine sitting down at 64 with $600,000 saved and feeling like a failure. 30 years of doing everything right. A pile of money that would have made your parents dizzy. And your gut still says it isn't enough. Why? Because a survey told you the real number was 1.46 million. And you're not even halfway there. Here's what nobody tells you. That 1.46 million is a magic number from an insurance company's survey. And it leapt $200,000 in a single year. The finish line moved 200 grand in 12 months. And the part they never put in the headline. The more that number scares you, the more financial products you'll buy chasing it. It isn't a finish line. It's a sales tool. But stay with Walter, because there is a real number, and for most people watching, it's less than half of that. With one catch, a trap that can quietly shove your number back up after you retire, until the enough you spent 30 years building isn't enough anymore. We'll get there. If you're between 55 and 70, with somewhere between 200,000 and 800,000 put away, and a quiet voice saying, "It isn't enough," this is where Walter shows you the real math. Not the survey's math, yours. In the next 18 minutes, why the million is mostly a myth, how to find your real number in 4 steps, and a real couple who needs 600,000 instead of 1.46 million, and exactly why. Stick around. There's a worksheet you can run at the kitchen table tonight. So here's the plan. First, Walter retires the myth. Then, the method, 4 steps that turn "how much do I need" into a number you can write on the back of an envelope. Then Frank and Maria, a real couple whose impossible target shrinks to something already in reach. Then the trap that can quietly raise your number. After you retire. And a 1-page checklist you can keep. Here's the idea Walter wants you to carry through this entire video. You are not trying to win a jackpot. You are trying to replace a paycheck. That one distinction changes everything. A jackpot is a single pile of money you need all at once. Terrifying, because no ordinary person saves one. But that is not what retirement is. Retirement is a paycheck problem. You worked 40 years, and a paycheck showed up every couple of weeks. The day you retire, it stops. And your whole job from then on is to rebuild it from other parts. And here's what almost nobody tells you. You start that job already half finished, because Social Security is the first paycheck, and it's already on its way, every month for the rest of your life, rising with inflation. So your savings don't have to replace your whole income. They only have to top up the gap between that Social Security paycheck and the life you actually want. Jackpot thinking hands you 1.46 million. Paycheck thinking hands you a number a lot smaller and a lot more real. Let's build your number. 4 steps. Walter wants you doing the math right alongside him. Step 1. Start with your spending, not a savings target. This is where the whole industry has it backwards. They hand you a giant lump sum and let you panic at it. Walter starts where reality starts. What does your life actually cost? The rule of thumb is about 80% of your pre-retirement income. But here's what most people get wrong. A lot of you will need less, and the reasons matter. Think about what disappears the day you retire. For many of you, the mortgage is gone, or nearly. The commute, gone. The work clothes, the lunch is out, the second vehicle, gone. And the biggest one, you stop saving for retirement because you're in it. If you were socking away 15% of every paycheck, that expense evaporated overnight. Same life, lower cost. So for a lot of households, the honest number is 70 or 80,000 a year. Not the 200,000 the lump sum scare implies. Step 2. Subtract your Social Security paycheck. This is the step the frightening surveys quietly skip right over. The average Social Security retirement check runs about $2,000 a month per person. For a couple who both worked, that's roughly $48,000 a year for life, rising with inflation. If you're married and both somewhere between 60 and 70, right now, go pull your real estimates off the Social Security website tonight. It's the largest single piece of your retirement paycheck, and most people are flat out guessing at it. That $48,000 is your base salary in retirement. It is the one faucet that never shuts off and never runs dry. Step 3. Find the gap. Spending minus your Social Security paycheck equals your gap, and only that gap is what your savings has to cover. Spend $72,000, Social Security brings in $48,000, and your savings is responsible for $24,000 a year. Not 72. 24. 3 times smaller, and we haven't done anything clever. We've just stopped pretending the paycheck that's already coming doesn't exist. This is the faucet you control, on top of the one you don't. Step 4. Multiply the gap by 25. This is the 4% rule, turned around. The 4% rule says you can pull about 4% of your savings the first year, adjust for inflation after, and the money should last about 30 years. Flip it. If you need $24,000 a year, multiply by 25, and you land on $600,000. That's the real number, not $1.46 million. $600,000. For a household covering a gap of $24,000, $600,000 is the definition of enough one honesty note. Because Walter won't sell you a fairy tale. The riskiest stretch for that 4% is the first 5 years, if the market drops right as you start pulling. Stay a little flexible early. But the number stands. Now the gotcha buried inside the method. And for once, it cuts in your favor. Taxes. People assume they'll get hammered by the IRS in retirement. Watch what's actually true. For a married couple, both 65 or older, the 2026 standard deduction is $32,200. Add the extra deduction for being 65 plus, then the new senior bonus deduction on top, and that couple can shield roughly $47,500 before they owe a single dollar of federal tax. And a big chunk of your Social Security often isn't taxed at all, so that $24,000 gap withdrawal, for a lot of you, it comes out at little or no federal tax. The real number isn't just smaller than the myth, it's gentler than you've been told to fear. Quick pause. If this is landing, if you feel your shoulders dropping an inch, hit subscribe. YouTube doesn't push retirement content unless viewers tell the algorithm it's worth pushing. Subscribing is how this reaches the next person lying awake tonight, convinced they're $750,000 behind. Now, let's put real numbers on a real couple. Meet Frank and Maria. Frank is 64, Maria 62. Frank ran operations at a parts distributor for 26 years. Maria kept the books for a dental practice. Write their numbers down. They're almost certainly closer to your life than that survey number ever was. Here's their picture. Between them, about $400,000. Frank's 401k, Maria's IRA, a little in a joint account. They own their home. 3 years left on the mortgage. And they've quietly decided their failures. Because the internet told them they needed $1.5 million, and they have 400,000. Frank keeps saying, I should probably just work until 70, just to be safe. Let's run their real number, the Walter way. Start with spending. They added it up honestly, including one real trip a year and a little help with a grandkid's tuition. It came to $72,000 a year. Now subtract the Social Security paycheck. Frank's benefit at full retirement age is about $26,000. Maria's about $22,000. Together, $48,000 a year for life, climbing with inflation. So their gap, 72 minus 48 is $24,000 a year. 24,000 times 25. Their real number is $600,000. They were convinced they needed $1.46 million. They're already sitting on $400,000, so they're not $1 million short. They're $200,000 short. And Frank is still working, still earning, still adding to the pile every single month. Now watch what that does to Frank's work until 70 plan. He doesn't need 6 more years. Between what he's still saving and a few years of ordinary growth, they close a $200,000 gap in 3 to 4 years, not 6. Frank can walk out the door at 67 or 68, not 70. And here's the real cost of the myth. Those years Frank was about to hand over, 67, 68, 69, aren't free years. They're some of the healthiest he has left. The myth told him to keep working for a number he didn't need, and the bill never shows up in dollars. It comes due in the one account you can't pay back into, time. Frank nearly traded his best years to close a gap that was already quietly closed. Same savings, same spending. A different number. Lately different retirement date. That's what Paycheck thinking buys you. Now here's the part most "how much do you need" videos never tell you. Even if you build your number perfectly, there's a trap on the far side that can raise it after you've retired. It's called the survivor gap. Frank and Maria's whole plan rests on 2 Social Security checks, that $48,000 a year. But 2 checks don't last as long as the 2 of them do. When one spouse dies, and one of you will go first, often by years, the household doesn't keep both. The survivor keeps the larger check. The smaller one stops. So picture Maria, years down the road, on her own. Frank's $26,000 check stays. Her own $22,000 stops. In one stroke, the household's Social Security falls from $48,000 to $26,000. But here's the cruel part. Her costs don't fall by half. The house, the taxes, the insurance, most of it stays the same for one person as it was for 2. Her gap doesn't shrink. It widens to maybe $30,000 a year, which pushes her real number towards $750,000. Well past the $600,000 that was plenty for 2. What was enough for a couple can be tight for the one who's left. So, what do you do about it? 2 things. First, and this is why it matters who claims and when. When the higher earner delays Social Security, they're not just buying a bigger check for themselves. They're buying a bigger survivor check for whoever's left. That one decision echoes for the rest of that person's life. Second, it's why Walter doesn't want you stripping your savings to the last dollar of your number. Your number isn't a ceiling you spend to zero. It's a floor with a cushion on top, and in the survivor gap is exactly what the cushion is for. So here's the routine Walter wants you to run. Tonight, if you can, at the kitchen table, with whoever shares the money with you. 1. Write down your honest annual spending. Not your salary, your spending. What your life actually costs in a year. Fun included. 2. Pull your real Social Security estimates off the Social Security website. Both of you. Don't guess. It's free and takes 5 minutes. 3. Subtract. Spending minus Social Security equals your gap. That gap is the only thing your savings has to cover. 4. Multiply the gap by 25. That's your real number. And for a lot of you, it's dramatically smaller than the one that's been keeping you up at night. 5. Compare it to what you already have and what you're still adding before you stop. Most of you are closer than you've been telling yourself. 6. Stress test it for one income. Ask out loud, if it were just one of us, does the number still hold? If it gets tight, that's your signal. Have the higher earner delay and keep that cushion. 7. The one to remember if you forget the other 6. Your number is built on a paycheck, not a jackpot. Social Security is the base salary. Your savings only fills the gap on top. See it that way, and the $1 million myth loses its grip for good. Look, the real reason that inflated number matters has nothing to do with the number itself. It's what chasing it costs you. Every extra year you work for money you didn't need is a year you don't get back, spent in an office instead of with the people and projects you'd have chosen. Doing this math in your 60s isn't about being cheap. It's about deciding on purpose when enough is finally enough. That's not a spreadsheet. That's your life. If this helped, do 3 things for Walter. Hit that like button so more people your age stop measuring themselves against a number built to sell them something. Subscribe to Walter Explains Retirement so you don't miss the next one. We're going deep on Social Security claiming soon, and it ties straight into that survivor check we just talked about. And in the comments, type the word enough if you want Walter to keep pulling these numbers apart. I'm Walter. Your money is important, but your time and your health are priceless. Use the rules to your advantage, not theirs. I'll see you in the next.